Hello again, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to talk today about Chapter 10. I had some guys out here yesterday building me a new shed in the backyard, and they didn't get finished, so they got that much done that's in the back. So I'll have to make this quick so I can go out there and show them what to do. Obviously, they don't have any idea what a shed looks like out here. Anyhow, we are going to get started. And there you go, Chapter 10, PPE. Well, okay, we all know about, what do we know about PPE in general? Where is it on the hierarchy controls? It's the bottom rung of the hierarchy controls. You got to use PPE when nothing else works, but you got to use PPE. But in the field of, there you go, personal protective equipment, in the field of hazmat, though, PPE sometimes is the only thing you got. Frequently, it's the only thing you got. And even if you do have other stuff, you still have to wear it because it's that dangerous. The chapter objectives here are understand the different types of respiratory equipment, discuss the different types of chemical protective suits and designs, and discuss the various types of chemical protective accessories, chair here, and identify the various levels of protection. Define the means of chemical breakthrough, identify chemical breakthrough times, explain the various regulatory considerations for PPE, and demonstrate proper donning and doffing techniques, all of which are not going to be covered in this PowerPoint. So you got to read the very interesting chapter. Respiratory equipment is divided into 4 different types: air purifying respirators, APRs, powered air purifying respirators, PAPRs, R's, must be small s, supplied air respirators, SAR, self-containing breathing apparatus, SCBA. And y'all know if you're going to do any skin diving and that's called a self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, which is just commonly called scuba. So SCBA is pretty much a scuba that's not for underwater. There's a couple different types of air purifying respirators. They use either a filter, a cartridge, or a canister to scrub contaminants from the atmosphere. You see different types there. Filter sometimes, like the N95, cartridge, or a canister, get rid of the bad stuff that's in the atmosphere. And APRs require knowledge of 3 things before you can use them. Oxygen concentration, must be a known chemical, concentration of the known chemical, because you can't use an APR for just anything. There's no just overall APR. It's got to be for a specific chemical. And you have to know the concentration, because if it's just too high, it's not going to work either. Air purifying respirators are particulate remove dirt, dust, heavy metals, aerosols, etc. HEPA, HEPA, high efficiency particulate air filter. That's what a HEPA filter is, or HEPA filter. And NIOSH has different designation levels: N95, R95, P95, R99, N99, P99, and they'll tell you there's a lengthy explanation about these in the book. They also do have some vapor or gas removing, uses activated charcoal to absorb chemical vapors from the atmosphere. And you can see exists a picture of an activated charcoal cutaway filter, and the one on the right, that picture's in your book too, where ambient air comes in and it gets filtered out, and then flow air that comes in to you is in a lot better shape. Powered air purifying respirators. They function the same as APRs, but utilize a battery-powered fan to blow air to the user. So you get some air. Supplied air respirators. Supplied air respirators use an airline, to supply breathable air from a breathing air compressor or cascade system to the user. Air times range from 30 minutes to unlimited. A breathing air compressor is not an air compressor that breathes. It's an air compressor that produces air that you can breathe. Must utilize a 15-minute emergency escape cylinder. So if you have a problem with the hose, and cannot use over 300 feet of hose. So you can use up to 300 feet. That's pretty far away. You're a football field away from your source. That's why you need to have an emergency escape cylinder if something goes wrong with that hose. And usually the hoses aren't that durable. So you got a problem. And also must use breathing grade components. You just can't use any hose or any air. Self-contained breathing apparatus. That's what it looks like there. The harness that fits on your back. You can see these go on. They hang up. They usually hang on your back upside down. So the air, what you consider the top of the containers on the bottom. SCBAs allow the user to be independent from the outside air. They're divided into two functional types, open circuit and closed circuit, and they use a demand or pressure demand system. There's your open circuit flow diagram. And I'm not going to go into the details of it. You can look at that in the book. SCBAs are available with various pressure tanks, 2250 PSI, 3250 PSI, and 4500. The tanks we use at OK Foods with 2250. Typically, air times range from 22 minutes to 60 minutes, and that's what we figured. We figured you had about just at the most 15 minutes of usable time by the time you get it on, hooked up and everything, and time to get back out. Maximum you have was like 15 minutes. So, but we, as a rule, we wouldn't be going very far in those at OK Foods because it was for there was ammonia release, and when that happened, you usually had a pretty good idea where it was at. Air tanks utilize grade D certified breathable air. They must be hydrostatically tested every 5 years, and the lifespan of the tanks is 15 years. For all respirator masks, ensure to inspect visual inspection of the mask, seals, the straps, the face piece, exhalation valve, and always perform a positive and negative user seal check before each use. That's what he's doing there. For all SARs and SCBAs, be sure to inspect all hoses, O-rings, and components, verify there's adequate air pressure, inspect the tank hydrostatic dates, check low air alarm function, and check functions of bypass valve and system components. Respirator fit testing. For all tight-fitting respirators, OSHA requires fit testing to ensure that respirator is right for you. This is done prior to use and then at least annually. Required for each brand and model the user may wear. That's why companies try to stick with the same brands, same models, so they don't have to have a whole bunch of different testing on it. There's two types of fit testing are available, qualitative and quantitative. We've discussed these in a lot of different classes. These are important terms. Qualitative is determined usually by words like, oh, this is good, better, best, or something along the line. Or in a particular case of fit testing, they're going to hold up banana oil, for example, while you have it on. You're going to try to see if you can smell the banana oil. Quantitative testing is more like numbers, like this is 7, this is 9, like pH numbers. In respirator fit testing, that's done by a machine and a computer. Qualitative fit testing uses chemicals to test if seal leaks occur. They use banana oil, which is isoamyl acetate, saccharin solution, Bitrex, and irritant smoke, without a testing closure for that one. Your testing closure for the irritant smoke. Quantitative fit testing uses a porta count to measure the difference between the outside air and breathing zone of user. Produces a fit factor and can be documented. These are slick. We had one at OK Foods, and you put these on and test somebody, and they actually give you a little printout of it. You can keep track of their testing. Chemical protective suits. There's kind of a wide variety of these too. For hazmat operations, EPA has developed 4 levels of protection based on protection ensembles, protective ensembles. Chemical protective suits come in different styles based on the protection that's needed. Gas tight, encapsulating, liquid splash suits. That's the problem, it's liquid splash. Encapsulating liquid splash, permeable protective, and non-hazardous. Gas tight encapsulated suits are also called vapor tight suits or level A. We used those at OK Foods because they had a gas, ammonia, which was our issue there. And if we had ammonia leak, we had to have 4 guys who were trained and had to have 4 whole outfits there. They could get 2 of them could get everybody would get all dressed out. 2 of them would go in to the ammonia or the generator room, wherever it was, and try to deal with the ammonia release rather. And if there was a problem, the other 2 were there strictly for one reason, to bring them other 2 guys out if there was a problem. So you always had to have 4 guys before you could even go in. Level A is the maximum respiratory and skin protection. Vapor tight, fully encapsulating suit. SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus. Level B is the maximum respiratory and minimum skin protection. It's a chemical resistance suit, It also has an self-contained breathing apparatus because it's the maximum respiratory protection. But it doesn't have it's minimum skin. It's not self-encapsulated. You can see it's open a little bit at the feet and hands and neck. Level C is the minimum respiratory and skin protection. It's a chemical resisting suit and an air purifying respirator. Level D is nothing, no respiratory and skin protection, normal work ensemble. That looks like it's got something on, but there's not much protection there. Normal work ensemble. Now, chemical protective suits, liquid splash suits are designed to protect from chemical splashes, not continuous flow. So just a splash of a chemical. Encapsulated liquid splash suits cover the user and equipment from contamination. They're not vapor tight suits. Permeable protective suits are made from fabric materials. They work like a filter to remove contamination. Non-hazardous clothing provides a minimal protection from chemicals, includes Tyvek rain suits, etc. So it's a minimal protection from chemicals. That's why you need to know what you're getting into when you choose and don a protective suit. Chemical suits use different seams for added protection. Seams can be crucial to protection factor of suit. Obviously, if it's a gas, it can get through a lot of different, very minute openings. So you have a seam, that's just a regular seam that you have in your clothes. It's not going to work. You need to have a seam that's made for these. So anytime, any place that they're sewn, and they are sewn. Chemical suits come in 3 types: reusable, disposable, and limited use. Suit inspection should include visually inspect the suit. Look for cracks, tears, or punctures, of course, or discoloration, delamination. They laminate, they're coming apart. Check seams and closures. Gas tight suits must be pressure tested once purchased and at least annually. Shelf life of most suits are up to 15 to 25 years. You deal with the manufacturer on that. And remember, when you're dealing with this stuff, or basically anything in safety, manufacturers' recommendations are just as good as OSHA regulations. Accessories, many accessories are used for added protection: gloves, boots, chem tape. That's a special kind of, I'm going to say duct tape, kind of like duct tape, but it's not. It's special. Cool vests, hard hats, and cool vests. I don't mean really neat vests that look nice on you. No, they mean vests that'll keep you cool. I think you knew that. Gloves are designed to protect from many hazards: chemicals, abrasion, heats, cuts, or punctures. Chemical protective boots are designed for numerous hazards as well. Available steel toe and steel shank for added protection. OSHA requires steel toe shank for unknown incidents and initial site visits. Chemical overboots are designed to cover chemical protective boots, allow for ease of decontamination. Chemical tape or chem tape is used to seal zippers around the hood and cuffs, etc. Has been tested for specific chemicals. You can see where they're putting that between the suit and the glove. Do that around your ankles too. Many cooling devices are available to minimize the effects of heat stress: ice vests, water-activated materials and gels, water or air-cooled garments. Those look like ice vests right there. You put ice in those, and it gets pretty hot, especially on a 95-degree sunny day when you're wearing PPE. You need some help to stay cool. Hard hats ensure protection from many factors. Fall and bump protection is primarily a concern, but the suspension systems do most of the work, as you can see. When I was in California, we were doing some work, and had nothing to do with chemicals, but doing some, had some construction people in doing a bunch of work. And it was a hard hat area. And I was on the dock with the chief engineer, the head contractor guy. And we were standing there, and these 2 dudes pulled up with their stuff. They were going to put in a door, a personnel door, and into a brick wall. So they had a trailer, and they'd parked it there, walking out. And this dude had the hard hat sitting down on top of his head. You know, hard hats you can see in this picture sit up over your head, and that's the whole idea. And so the superintendent that I was with called them, said, "Hey, what's about your hard hat?" "Oh, it broke." "Well, you know what? I got news for you. I've seen a lot of hard hats, and they don't just break. And they just break. So he just didn't. They looked cool sitting up high. So we had extra hard hats. Now, if he would just said something, wouldn't have been a jerk about it, we'd have given them a hard hat. But he kind of copped an attitude with this guy, and it's not a guy you want to cop an attitude with. He threw him off the site. And he immediately called his boss and told him, these guys are not coming back on this site. And the boss was whining and whining. So they're already there and they got their stuff and everything else. It's too bad. This guy's not coming onto my construction site. And that's the way you handle people that cop an attitude about safety. 2 types of hard hats by the American National Standards Institute. Where we heard that before. ANSI. Type 1 protects from falling objects that are top of head. Type 2 protects from falling objects from the top of head and from the side. ANSI also certifies hard hats for electrical shock protection. Class G General provides protection up to 2,200 volts. Class E provides protection up from 20,000 volts. And Class C is conductive, which provides no electrical protection whatsoever. Inspection and replacement requirements for hard hats include replace when cracks appear or shiny surfaces become dull, replace suspension when damage or wear occurs, replace suspension system every 12 months, and replace the entire hard hat every 5 years. Different materials are used to ensure adequate protection from chemicals. All equipment from suits to gloves to respirators utilize one or more fabrics or materials. The material can help determine the protective factor. Examples of material used is Tyvek, which is pretty common, polyethylene or polyurethane, Ceramic, you can see that R means it's a trademark, butyl rubber, Vitcon, Teflon, nitrile, latex. Nitrile and latex are commonly used in gloves. Thickness of materials based on gauges or mil size. This can help determine protection factor. Gauge is raised from 4 mil, which is what, 4,000 of an inch, to 60 mil. Chemical breakthroughs occur by 3 different means: permeation, degradation, or penetration. So what does that mean? Permeation means it just seeps through the suit. Degradation means when your suit's coming apart or degrading. And penetration, when there's a hole in it, usually caused by something else. Manufacturers must test materials and equipment for permeation of specific chemicals. Chemical breakthrough times and charts are available to show permeation rates. What they're saying is every chemical has its own permeation rate through different types of things. So there's a chemical name, and there's the physical phase, and I need my glass to watch to see this, and breakthrough times. So chemical name is sarin, for example. I don't know what physical phase L means, to be honest with you. And the breakthrough time is up greater than 720 minutes. Ammonia, 79 minutes. PPE program must be developed to include hazards involved, medical program requirements, PPE utilized, maintenance and inspection, decontamination, storage and disposal, and chemical breakthrough times. Respiratory programs must be developed to include hazards involved, the medical program requirements, the respirators you're going to use, decontamination, storage and disposal, cartridge change schedule for air purifying respirators only. Medical programs are developed to ensure responders are fit for PP and work involved. Medical questionnaire and their physicals are required initially and require physician's approval for fitness. We require that OK Foods an initial and medical questionnaire, and we send them out for an annual physical from our work doctor to be sure they're fit for duty, and then we'll talk about that in a minute too. APRs may not be worn by individuals with respiratory issues. Asthma, bronchitis, emphysema makes a lot of sense. Breathing is more difficult than an APR, with an APR. A pulmonary function test may allow medical physicians to allow use of PAPR or a CBA. So we had SCBAs, so we required everybody to have a pulmonary function test. If they couldn't pass the pulmonary function test, they probably couldn't work in the refrigeration department. PPE is designed to protect us from hazards and chemicals. It can also hinder our work performance and cause problems. All types of PPE have some sort of issues. Now, don't forget PPE. When you're wearing PPE, it changes the way you're going to work. Going to make it a little more difficult, maybe a lot more difficult to do some of the things you're doing. They have 2 typical issues wearing PPE. Your dexterity is limited, mobility. It's the sizing. They're not all perfect size, so you can have something that's too big for you. fog. It could fog up, heat or cold. You're going to get hotter if it's hot out. And communication is limited too. So there's a lot of limitation when it comes to PPE. So that's it for chapter 10. So again, read the book. That's where all your questions are going to come from. And we'll see you the next time.